What I'd like to do today is to take a look at some surveys, survey data, and then discuss how this data can be used to draw conclusions about markets, to make predictions about the market, to make up a marketing plan, to make investment decisions. And so today I'm going to look specifically at a survey that was taken to look at the issue of pets, to look at pets as a cultural phenomenon, to look at pets in people's lives. And the data that I'm going to focus on right now is going to focus on Americans' attitudes towards pets. But later, we'll also look at how this plays out internationally. So, there are approximately 74.8 million owned dogs in the United States. 74.8 million. And we're not talking about stray animals here. We're talking about owned dogs. There are about 90 million owned cats in the United States. 90 million. Now, the population of the United States is over 300 million. But we're talking a lot of animals. And Americans spend a lot on their pets. In 2006, $36 billion was spent in the United States on food, shelter, health care, luxuries for pets. Looking at the industry, it's considered one of the fastest growing subsectors in the entire U.S. economy, growing by as much as 6% a year. So what I'm going to talk about is a poll that was taken looking at pets, pet ownership, attitudes, behaviors, surveying 2,455 adults. It was an online poll taken in late 2007. And the poll looked at age, race, ethnicity, education, region. And when they looked at age, they broke down the groups into sectors, into groups more for market research purposes. And the group you're probably most familiar with is the group called the baby boomers. The baby boomers are those who were born post-World War II, to 1964, 1946 to 1964. But they also looked at a group called the Gen X group. And this is a group and these dates vary per study, but I want to give you this particular study's range of ages. The Gen X group they categorized as being born between 1965 and 1976. They also created another group called Echo Boomers, and they were born 1977 to 1989. So you've got those three groups here. And then they had an older group called, they labeled them matures, a euphemism for sure. And they were born before 1945. Okay, so what they found is that under two-thirds of Americans, just under two-thirds of Americans, 63%, currently have a pet. Nearly 2 out of 3. And that certain groups are more likely to have pets than others. Women are more likely than men. And that was 68% to 57%. Gen Xers and baby boomers are more likely to have pets than the youngest generation and the oldest generation. Regionally, they found that people in the Midwest were more likely to have pets, while those in the East were least likely to have pets. 67% in the Midwest, 58% in the East. When they looked at race and ethnicity, they found that 67% of whites and 68% of Hispanics had a pet, compared to just 35% of African Americans. In terms of education, people who had more education were less likely to have a pet. So for people with less than a high school education, 2/3 had a pet. While people who had postgraduate education, and these are the extremes, there were only 54% who had pets. So again, the tendency to have a pet seems to have gone down with education. Okay, what kind of pets do people have? As anyone can tell you just by spending a little time here, dogs and cats are the most popular of house pets. 7 in 10 pet owners have a dog, compared to just over half, 52%, who have a cat. Now, we said that there were more cats in the country, but that's owing to the idea that statistically, cat owners are more likely to have more than one, while dog owners are more likely to have just one dog. But what about other pets? 15% have fish, 7% have a bird, 12% have some other type of pet. And imagine this, 13% of pet owners have 6 or more pets. 6 or more pets. Since I'm not a pet owner myself, it's hard for me to imagine that. Though I do have a cousin with 3 dogs and 3 cats and a couple of hamsters. Anyway, when people were asked if they considered their pet as a member of the family, and this was only asked of the people who said that they had a pet, here's what they said. 88% said yes, 7% said no, 4% said not sure, and females said yes much more than males, 93% to 84%. Now, if pets are widely, hugely considered as part of the family, then there are responsibilities and expectations here. And here's an area that I think is kind of fun. What do people do with their pets? Because if pets are members of the family, then they're entitled to certain things. And pet owners make sure their pets get those things. And of course, we've all seen pictures and heard stories about the crazy things that people do with and for their pets. So they asked, what do you do with your pets? And here are some of the answers. Do your pets sleep on your bed ever? Over 2/3 of pet owners, 69%, let their pets sleep in the bed with them. Women more likely than men to share their bed with their pets. 72% versus 64%. Gen Xers are also more likely to share their bed, as almost 3/4 let their pets sleep with them. And cats seem more likely to get on the bed than dogs, 78% versus 70%. What about buying gifts? Because, of course, this is what we're talking about when we're thinking about businesses and marketing. Almost 2/3 have bought their pets a holiday present, and over 1/3 have bought their pet a birthday present. Dogs get presents more than cats do. 7 in 10 dog owners have bought their pet a holiday present. Poor cats. Only 63% of cat owners have bought those same things. Same is true of birthday presents. 42% of dog owners have gotten their pet a present compared to only 1/3 of cat owners. How about cooking especially for your pet? 23% of pet owners have done so. Dressing them in some kind of clothing? Buying clothing for their pet? 18%. Taking them to work? 10%. So overall, what does this tell you? What conclusions can we draw in terms of market outreach, advertising campaigns, predictions about the market, and what about internationally? Now, before we go into those areas, let me make a disclaimer. This poll was taken among adults who were online and agreed to be part of the survey, so that already limits our group. This is a population who works online, who are comfortable online. So take the survey with a little grain of salt, because again, the sample is based on those who agreed to participate in this particular panel, and it is not truly random, even though the survey conductors did make efforts to weigh responses to reflect the composition of the adult population. So before we again talk about market outreach, market campaigns, industry expectations, this has been a look at American culture. I'm going to end with some international perspective. China. This came from a marketing research newsletter in 2007. According to that newsletter, China's pet population has grown by a remarkable 20% in 5 years, from 240,799,000 in 1999, 240,799,000 in 1999, to 291,315,000 in 2004. So from a little over 240 million to a little over 291 million in 5 years. And they forecasted that this would continue to grow strongly. In that same period, 1999 to 2004, the percentage of the population who owned dogs and cats increased as well. For dog ownership, it went from 5% of the population in 1999 to 7% in 2004. For cat ownership, it went from 14% to 15% in that same period. And of course, as market research is reporting to business, they're interested in this phenomenon as it relates to new products, new markets. And they estimate the sales of dog and cat food reached nearly 1.6 million RMB in 2004. RMB, that's renminbi, Chinese currency. And that, they said, represented a value growth of 13% over the previous year. So again, let's talk about what we're going to do. We're business people. We're looking at investment. We're looking at market research. We're looking at market outreach. We're looking at advertising campaigns. We're looking at investment. What's the implication of all this?